Welcome to the Board of Public Works, Friday, February 18th, 2022 meeting. First, I think we will take the item for the minutes from Wednesday, February 2nd, approval of the minutes. May I have a motion?
Dr. Davis, Mr. Chairman, before we take any action, can I go ahead and establish roll call and quorum this morning? Thank you. Thank you again. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, establishing roll call and quorum for today. We have President Pro Tem Davis as our chair. We have Commissioner Caloza and Villegas. Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum at this time. Currently, we do have one caller on the line under general public comment. We also have one caller on the line for item number 1. In addition to that, we do have the developer that's associated with item number 1, Dan Zacharias, on the line should your board have any questions for the developer. Again, one caller for public comments, one caller for item number 1, and the developer on item number 1 are on the line.
Okay. And so we're going to take the caller first.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joanne D'Antonio, if you can please unmute your microphone. The Board of Public Works is now considering general public comments. You will be given 2 minutes to speak under this category. Again, if you can just unmute your microphone by pressing *6 or clicking the unmute button. Perfect. Thank you, Joanne. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Joanne D'Antonio, and I am speaking as an individual, but I chair the Trees Committee for the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance, and I also am a representative to the Community Forest Advisory Committee. Section 12.37 of the Highway and Collector Street Dedication and Improvement is a way to get streets widened when new construction is taking place. But no one really takes a 2022 look at the situation. My council office policy deputy was reluctant to rock the boat to overturn this policy or to try to, and he felt we could continue on a case-by-case basis. But these present a lot of work in this heat island era when we need road diets, larger parkways, and big native trees for biodiversity. Times have changed, and new trees cost us a lot of water to get going. And of course, they're not mature for 20 years. Ideally, widening would be for large parkways for trees and not for cars in the street. We do road diets nowadays, so why are we thinking like it is 2013 before the drought and heat that we are now experiencing? Let's take a realistic look at what we can do to make the San Fernando Valley more livable. The Sunkist building and the Sportsman's Lodge took out hundreds of tall, mature trees for development. We need to stop following this old idea that we need wider streets instead of tree canopy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. D'Antonio. Dr. Campos, our next item.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we'll go ahead and close out public comments if that's okay.
Sure.
Great. Absolutely. Thank you so much. The next item for you is the minutes for consideration.
Sure. Thank you. We have approval for the minutes from Wednesday, February 2nd. May I have a second to my motion to approve those minutes?
So move.
Thank you. Well, I'll second your motion. Commissioner Villegas makes the motion to accept those minutes from February 2nd. I second that motion. Any unreadiness on the motion? Hearing and seeing none. That motion is, can we get a roll call vote on that motion, Dr. Campos?
Absolutely. There's been a motion to adopt the minutes by Commissioner Villegas, seconded by Commissioner Davis. We'll start the voting tabulation at this time. We'll start with you, Chairman Davis.
Aye.
And Commissioner Caloza?
Aye.
And Commissioner Villegas?
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Mr. Chair, can we consider this to go forthwith?
Yes, please. Forthwith.
Thank you.
And agenda items we're ready for. The first item, Agenda 1, we'll take, which is tree removal, 4827 North Sepulveda Boulevard. recommending to the board, one, find under California Public Resources Code section 21166 and the state's Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, guidelines section 15162 on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record that since the city's prior certification of Environmental Impact Report, EIR, number ENV 2004-6000 EIR, there have been no changes to the project, changes with respect to the circumstances under which the project is being undertaken, or information of substantial importance concerning the project, which cause new significant environmental effects or substantial increase in the severity of previously identified significant effects, and therefore no subsequent EIR, supplemental EIR, or other analysis is required for the project. Two, specify that the Bureau of Street Services, Street LA, Urban Forestry Division, located at 1149 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. And three, review and approve the request for a fee permit for the removal of 11 trees, which include 6 Bradford pear, Paris, Calariana, 2 Chinese pistachia chinesis, 2 carrot wood, Caprienio, Anacardiados, and 1 crepe myrtle tree. Tree replacements are required. With that, is there any person to speak on this item? Dr. Campos, do we have a...
Yes, we do. We have one caller on the line. Joanne D'Antonio is here for item number 1. And again, Board of Public Works, just a reminder, we do have the developer on item number 1 should your board have any questions for Dan Zacharias. We'll go ahead and take the public comment on item number 1 at this time. Joanne D'Antonio, if you can please unmute your microphone. The Board of Public Works is considering item number 1. You'll have 2 minutes to speak under this item. Please go ahead.
Yes, this is Joanne D'Antonio, again speaking as an individual. I want to find out if this is, if you've had adequate time to really investigate this project. This widening hits a freeway overpass, so it's going to create a bottleneck. Sepulveda is likely the second widest street in Sherman Oaks, and it is an easy north-south route that I have traveled frequently. I live in the valley, and it does not appear to need more room. What this area does need is more canopy trees because it is hot, and there is pollution from the intersection of the 405 and the 101 right where we want to sacrifice this tree canopy. A few days ago, a member of my Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance Trees Committee, who is a retired city planner, sent me the applications to waive street widening. Why didn't anybody file these for this project? The tree removal public request was dated February 5, 2022. That's only, it's within this month. Yet this project, transmittals, have dates that go back to 2013, long before the existing CD4 staff even was installed. In fact, I think it's 2 council members ago. I think this was still when Tom LaBonge was the council member. The trees here are an afterthought. It will take 20 years to grow new trees, and in the meantime, we lose air quality and increase heat in the area. The sidewalk can be rebuilt around the existing trees. Does the property owner just want a different look? I suggest we continue this and take a look as to whether it is in the best interest of Sherman Oaks community to remove the large canopy trees. Now, not all of these trees are large canopy, but at least the largest ones, and also find out if we are really going to widen Sepulveda Boulevard and Ventura Boulevard, and if so, why? This notice went to CFAC and the neighborhood councils on February 7th, only 11 days ago. The transmittals became available 3 days ago. I was in 3 meetings yesterday that involved efforts to affect better tree policy. Have the commissioners had time to read all this material? Do you need more time? I mean, should we be continuing this?
2 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers on this item number 1?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we have a representative from Urban Forestry to present.
Good morning, Pro Tem President Davis.
Yes, sir, Mr. Banuelos. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Hector Banuelos. I'm superintendent here with Streets LA Urban Forestry Division. And today what we have before us is a request for a fee permit to remove 11 trees that is related to a project at 4827 North Sepulveda Boulevard. That's on the northwest corner of Sepulveda and Camarillo in the community of Sherman Oaks. That is also adjacent to the Sherman Oaks Galleria, if anybody knows the valley. It's a pretty popular place. So this request here is, the division has discussed this case with several city departments throughout the months. And it's not like we did not consider tree removals on this one here. We've been going back and forth with the developers, the applicants, and the other city departments to see if there's any possibility to perhaps defer it or waive the conditions required street widening. And this one here is rather complicated because it was tied into the environment impact report that was produced back in 2004 and approved back and circulated, and then approved back in 2010. So it's a lot of, roughly 2013. So there's a lot of history. So this project was approved several years ago, but for some unknown reasons, it was just never, project was never built. And so here we are now where the developers has already processed all their applications and did do all their entitlements and already been approved to construct this project. And so there are actually 6 Bradford pears, very large, mature Bradford pears that appear to be healthy in front of the site here at 4827 North Sepulveda Boulevard that are going to be severely impacted by the excavation needed to do the, I believe there's a 2-story underground subterranean parking. And so there's also going to be doing sidewalk repairs. So these trees are planted not so much adjacent to curbs as typical of your street trees, but they're actually planted adjacent to the property line. So they're further away from the curb, and so they're right up against the property line where there's going to be a lot of construction activity and excavation, and it's going to ultimately impact these trees, their stability and their health. And so therefore they have to be removed. There's just no way to preserve these trees in place. Although, as I mentioned earlier, we do try to preserve trees whenever possible through feasible alternatives. There is off-site street improvements required as part of this project. They're on Ventura Boulevard, not Sepulveda. Sepulveda is not going to be widened. I just want to clear that up because the caller previously mentioned that Sepulveda Boulevard is going to be widened. There is no street widening on Sepulveda Boulevard for this project, as far as we know. So the widening is all being required as an old condition that was written into the environment impact report by the Department of Transportation. I guess back in the day it was differently thought out to the widening. Now our thinking of widening is so much not. It's a rather it's just challenging topic, right? Because it does impact trees, and so in this case, it is going to impact 5 street trees going on Ventura Boulevard. They're at Sherman Oaks Avenue. That's just the west of the 405 and south of the 113 freeway. There's an on-ramp there, whereas the Department of Transportation has required as part of the traffic mitigation and within the environment impact report that the widening occurred by 3 feet. It's not a significant amount of widening, but it's already in place, and it's very complicated to try to get that condition waived. And we've had several discussions with Department of Transportation, with Bureau of Engineering, with some of the commissioners and some of the other departments, including Department of Transportation, on the subject. And so the widening, just for for this complicated reasons. I just don't really want to go into detail because I really don't know all of the details on the complications that may evolve around waiving this type of condition. With that, this street widening is going to impact two Chinese pistaches that are located on the south side of Ventura Boulevard, just immediately east of Sherman Oaks Avenue. And then we have a crepe myrtle tree just west of that intersection there on the south side. That's also going to be impacted by the required street widening. However, I do want to note that there was a palm tree and another crepe myrtle going to be removed as part of that widening, where we spoke with Department of Transportation and the Bureau of Engineering. And they have allowed that widening to not be to be performed further west of there. So they reduced that widening there, that taper, to keep those two trees in place. Now, across the street from here, there are two companion trees. They're mature, they kind of scraggly, but with a little bit of pruning, they can be nice-looking trees. However, these trees will be severely impacted by the required street widening on the north side of Sepulveda, just directly across from Sherman Oaks Avenue. That's right adjacent to the on-ramp to the northbound I-405 freeway. So in all, we have 11 trees being removed. At the outside street improvement locations, there is room to plant 6 trees there. So the developer applicant is going to plant 6 pink trumpet trees at the area there along Ventura Boulevard. And at their site, if approved, they are going to plant approximately about 18 Chinese pistache or other street species that we determine is appropriate. And for the site in front and around the 4827 North Sepulveda. So with that, I do want to mention also that the Community Forestry Advisory Committee, the Council Office, and the Department of Environment were informed of the tree removal permit request. I know it was a bit late on September, but I wanted to make sure, the division wanted to make sure that across all our T's and dot our I's on seeking all feasible alternatives to the tree removals, and make sure that all the city departments were, at least that we have input from everybody regarding the project and our recommendations here for the tree removal permit request. So the trees will be watered for a minimum of 5-year period through their establishment. So that concludes my presentation today, and I'm here to address any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Banuelos. And I want to start first with Commissioner Teresa Villegas. Any questions?
Thank you. Appreciate that. I understand this was already approved by planning. They had already seen these plans. And do you know, Mr. Banuelos, the delay? Sorry if you hear any noise in the background. It's just I think somebody's mowing their lawn. My apologies. Do you know, Mr. Banuelos, for the reason for the delay?
The delay of, I'm sorry.
This was already gone through planning, and then it's coming back to us a couple of years later. Do you know why?
No, I don't. I actually went to planning back in 2010, 2013. It was kind of ongoing. So throughout the years, right? So yes, but I do not know the reasons for the delays. However, we do have a couple of representatives from the developer that may be able to address that question a little better. I don't know if Dan, are you on the line?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
The developer that I'm working with was not the original owner at the time that the decision letter was issued. So we purchased this project with these conditions, and we're trying to abide by them. We would start construction tomorrow if we could. Just getting through the various procedures has taken quite a bit of time. We're getting close to pulling our permits now. As Hector said, the reason for removing the trees on Sepulveda is not to widen Sepulveda, but to widen the sidewalk. And these trees are not situated right at the curb like a typical street tree. They're further back. They'd be in the middle of the sidewalk and close to where the excavation would happen. So chances are the roots would be damaged and the trees would die anyways. And we've spent over a year meeting with city planning as well as DOT and Hector to try to see what we can do to save trees. As Hector mentioned, we were able to save one tree and one of the other off-site improvements, not on Sepulveda. So we've done everything we could, and also, as Hector said, a lot of this is tied into the environmental report. So, you know, our hands are tied. Of course, as the public commenter said, the way the city views these things has changed, but we're abiding by conditions of approval from 2013 and the environmental tied to that. So we're doing everything we can to save every tree we can, and that's what we got to this point after over a year of consultation with the city.
Okay, I appreciate your attending today's meeting. And maybe either one of you, I see on the board report, this is a 325 unit mixed use, like residential as well, is that correct? Are these apartments, or are these condos, or are these?
Apartments. This is an apartment project. It's mixed use, so there will be some retail at the street level there.
Okay, with parking underground?
Correct.
Okay. And all of the trees that, the 11 trees being removed, you're replacing them with some of them on site and then some of them on the public right of way?
Yes, whatever Hector tells us to do.
Okay. And so there's no,
all street trees, as far as I know, require 2-to-1 replacement, which is reviewed
no,
by...
that's correct. We know that. Yeah, thank you.
Right.
All right. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Next, I'll ask Commissioner Jessica Caloza. Any questions?
Yes, thank you so much, President Pro Tem Davis. Thanks for your presentation, Mr. Banuelos, and thanks to Ms. D'Antonio for dialing in and giving comment on this project. Just to follow up from what Commissioner Villegas had asked for the question for the developer, I'm just curious, for these 325 units, are any of these affordable units by chance?
Negative. This is an older decision letter before developers started utilizing that type of development. So it's sort of baked into the approval. These are all market rate units. So we're just building out the entitlement as it was written in 2013.
So when did this transition happen from the old developer and then the existing developer that you work with now?
That I'm not sure. I'd have to, I think the developer, if they want to raise their hand, we could get them in on that.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is I guess I'm just curious. I know you're saying this is tied into the EIR, and I'm less familiar, and I don't know if that's something Ms. Isagire would know more about, but for EIRs, since they're just essentially building the same project, that nothing has changed from when nothing has changed in the conditions from the original EIR in 2013. Like you didn't make any changes from when this new owner took over the project.
We have a weekly meeting with our planner with major projects, Erin Strelick, and she has kept everything moving with the original EIR. There have been some slight changes, but that would only be with the language of the conditions. For example, there's a Whole Foods development on Ventura Boulevard that already completed some of our off-site improvements that we were required to do, but everything is still under that original EIR.
So there's no conditions that have changed in this project that would essentially change this project entirely, that would require a different kind of review? I guess I'm just trying to understand, too, from my perspective, just because it's been 9 years since the EIR was completed, so much has changed, and whether or not that changes any conditions. I understand you're saying it's tied to this, but maybe Mr. Banuelos, this is a better question for you. I don't know, in how you're all looking at this. I know it sounds like you've had many meetings on this with planning and BOE and lots of other folks, but just curious if the length of time that has passed from when this EIR was first completed was a topic, and just curious how this was considered with any new changes that may need to be factored in.
I'm unaware of any new changes that have come in relative to this project that would change the outcome or our recommendations here. So it is, as far as I know, the condition for street widening still exists. It has not changed. And so the trees, those off-site trees do require removal in order for the applicant to perform the required street improvements. And as I mentioned previously, the 5 trees in front of the project site will be severely impacted by the required excavation needed to construct the subterranean parking structure, in addition to all the other construction activity that will be occurring there at the site.
Okay. I wish we had the CEQA attorney here so I could ask him questions. I'm just wondering, like, if there's, kind of how, like, there's a statute of limitations for certain documents, right? And of course, certain things that we can do. I know I'm using very improper terms here whether it relates to CEQA. I'm just curious whether or not, right, because it's been 9 years, whether or not something needs to be evaluated. But I'm not trying to throw a wrench into what I know is kind of a final piece to getting more housing built. And so I was curious about, but I can follow up with our CEQA lead in the city attorney's office after this. And one of the questions I had for you too, Mr. Benuelos, is from the 11 trees. I know this was in the bit of the board report, but can you just share like the health of the trees, like how many of them? I know there's parts of it in the board report that says they're in fair to poor condition. Can you just elaborate a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. So the trees in front appear to be healthy, right? They're large Bradford pears. Those are evergreen pears, well, not evergreen pears, but they're ornamental pears, as they're also commonly called, right? The Pyrus Kelleriana. Those trees are fair health, but they do have a lot of co-dominant limbs. That's natural characteristic of the branching structure of those trees. When they're left to grow without trimming, those trees have been trimmed in a while, they are prone to breakage because of the co-dominant included bark that's in the branching structure. But overall, they're healthy. They appear to be healthy trees. So we have the off-site trees. There's 2 Chinese pistache on the south side of Ventura Boulevard, just east of Sherman Oaks Avenue. Those 2 trees are healthy as well. One looks like it's stunted in growth, but it appears to be healthy. They're about between 6 inches to perhaps 10 inches in diameter, by about 20-25 feet in height. So those are healthy Chinese pistache. I really try to keep those trees because those are really nice looking trees. But across the street from there, is on the south side, there is one crepe myrtle. That tree appears to be in poor condition. And so the tree hasn't really grown much, I guess, since it was planted. And for unknown reasons, it's just probably because of lack of water, perhaps, or maybe just restricted root space there. It's a very small tree, maybe about 4, maybe 5 inches in diameter by about maybe 12 feet in height. So that's probably the smallest one of all the 11 trees. And that one's going to be impacted by the required street widening as well, where the roadway tapers going westward along the south side of Ventura Boulevard from the intersection of Sherman Oaks Avenue. On the north side of the street, just east of the freeway on-ramp, there are the 405 northbound. There are 2 campanias. Those trees have been there for a while. They're at least 12 inches in diameter by about 20 feet in height. They have a very dense crown. They haven't been trimmed in a while, but they are overall in fair condition. And so there's altogether 11 trees from fair to poor condition have to be removed for the required street improvements and for the site development.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Benuelos. So it sounds like 3 out of the 11 are in worse shape than the others.
Well, just really one tree, really, kind of bad. It's the crepe myrtle, right? But the campanias aren't exactly in the best shape, but with a little bit of trimming, they can probably be decent looking trees, I'll put it that way, for lack of a better term.
Okay. And I know you've said this, but I'll ask you again, do you feel like we've exhausted all options at the city to save as many trees as possible?
Yeah, we've been back and forth. I've been back and forth with the applicant, with various city departments, DOT, everybody. I mean, we had several meetings, right, and trying to discuss the case and trying to take away that street widening. I wish we can make it all go away, but unfortunately, because it's the complications that are attached with the EIR, with the conditions of the project, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to do without basically mothballing the whole project and going back to the drawing board.
Okay. Thank you for restating that again, and appreciate all the work that you did leading up to today's hearing. I know this is just one item, and you probably spent many hours on this, agonizing over every tree, which we should. And so just wanted to thank you for your efforts to save some trees. And it sounds like you did. I know one of the attachments or the transmittal said that there are originally 13 requested, and then this one before us is 11 tree removals. So, and I think that the developer mentioned saving those trees as well. So thank you.
Yes. Yes, and I just want to note also, one of my other concerns was the reduced planting area also as a result of the street widening. So we went back and forth also with the planting as well, and initially they wanted to plant less trees. They initially proposed to plant less trees there, and much smaller, of course, because the growing area there is really small, really reduced. It's only going to be an 8-foot sidewalk when it's all said and done. So Bureau of Engineering has agreed to allow a 4-foot sidewalk there. And so with that, we're able to get a little bit larger trees, which is the pink trumpet. Not exactly a huge tree, but at least it's a lot better than like a crepe myrtle or like a Chinese French tree, which are very, very small.
Just to answer one of Jessica's earlier questions, the developer just took ownership in May of 2019. So we just sort of inherited all of these conditions and everything, and we've been working with Hector on this. As he said, we've done everything we can to accommodate saving trees, as well as he said, creating space for new trees in those areas and figuring out how to accommodate the trees that we can in smaller spaces because of the widening and the offsite improvements.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. That's helpful to know. I just, if it was, you told me the new developer acquired this in 2014, I would have a lot more questions for you. But you acquired it literally right before the pandemic, which I know is probably tough. But I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Mr. Van Orlos, and thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. I yield the time back to you.
Yes, my only concern was the 6 Bradford pear trees, but it appears that Mr. Manuelos is saying that we have done absolutely everything that we could in terms of trying to save the trees, and that those 6 were impacted by the construction of the garage at that location, which does not make it possible to be able to save those trees because of that. Other than that, I did not have any additional questions. Can we have a motion to accept item number 1?
So moved.
It's been moved by Commissioner Villegas. May I have a second to her motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Caloza. Dr. Campos, may we have a roll call?
Absolutely. This is for item number 1. There's been a motion by Commissioner Villegas, seconded by Commissioner Caloza to adopt item number 1, subject to the conditions listed on that report. We'll go ahead and start with the voting tabulation. We'll start with you, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Commissioner Caloza?
Aye.
And Commissioner Villegas? You're on mute.
Aye.
Thank you so much. This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Mr. Chair, would you like to consider this item to go forthwith?
Do we need this item to go forthwith, Mr. Van Brelis?
Yes.
Okay. Forthwith.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Zacharias, for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Next is item number 2, finding to continue teleconference meetings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361, recommending the board, 1, adopt the finding and determination in accordance with AB 361, Section 3E3, that while the state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as originally proclaimed by the governor on March 4th, 2020, remains active, and or state or local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing, this legislative body has considered the circumstances of the state of emergency, and that the state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of the members to meet safely in person, and or state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to pass that item number 2.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Colosa, and I will second that motion. May we have a roll call vote, Dr. Campos?
Absolutely. We'll start with you, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Commissioner Caloza
Aye.
and Commissioner Villegas.
Aye.
This motion is adopted. Mr. Chair, can we consider this to go forthwith?
Please go forthwith.
Thank you.
Next is item number 3, an AFE CD Smith Incorporated, Bureau of Street Services and Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $100,000 to encumber funds for planned development services for buyer car feasibility plan. Authority of the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney. And that is AE 22-0000023M, Fund 100, General Fund, Department number 86, Unit 003040. May I have a motion to pass the AFE CDM Smith Incorporated?
Mr. Chair, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, we do have Anna Tambueno Rudy from the Bureau of Street Services and also Taku from the line if you'd like to hear a presentation. However,
yes, I would.
I'll defer to your board if you want to go straight to a motion.
Yeah, well, let's have a presentation. So for information's sake, for board members and for the public.
Okay, great. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ana Tabuena Ruddy, Landscape Architect 2 at Streets LA's Engineering Services Division. We are here today requesting board approval and execution of an AFE in the amount of $100,000 to encumber funds for planned development services for a biochar feasibility plan. The plan will investigate if Streets LA will have the ability to have full-scale biochar production as part of our Bureau operations. Biochar is simply charcoal produced from tree waste, from the trimming of trees and the removal of dead trees, and has several benefits that are of interest for our Bureau. When added to soil as an amendment, it can improve plant growth. It has properties for managing stormwater, such as increased water and pollutant retention. It can also be used as a potential bitumen additive for asphalt production. So once we have the feasibility plan completed, it will help position Streets LA and the city to be ready when grant opportunities come up. That's basically our short presentation about biochar today.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions, members, for the item number 3? Commissioner Calosa?
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Thanks for your presentation, Mr. Buenaverde. Just curious, how did we select CDM Smith, or just curious what you thought, why they were the best vendor to do this study?
Thanks for your question. So CDM Smith has part of their firm different resources from across the United States that can inform this study. They have biochar knowledge, and they also have staff that used to be public works directors, and so they're familiar with how our agency operates, including how yard functions are, fleet, and anything that's related to the urban forestry operations. And so it made it very easy for us to communicate with them the advantages and the opportunities that is potential for this project to provide for us.
And in terms of the period of time, 1 year is really fast. Just curious whether or not, how you all feel about the timeline. I know you dictated it, but just curious what's going to happen within this 1 year period, and what happens to the report after, if that's something that the board gets to see. Just curious to what the findings are.
Yeah, so part of what they will be doing is collecting data on how we operate right now and creating scenarios of the feasibility of whether we just continue the way we are working on right now, and another scenario where a biochar production is possible. And so a lot of it is really offering them data of how we operate, and then they take a look at that and see how we can make changes. And there's also other investigations that they will do, such as looking at technology, how much that would cost, the purchase of that technology, spatial considerations in our yards right now. And in speaking with them, I think that they had mentioned that can be done pretty quickly within a year's time, even less. Once we complete the plan, we are very happy to share the results of it. We're very excited about starting this investigation.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much for your report. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Calosa. Commissioner Villegas, any questions?
Thank you. I appreciate your report. It's always so thorough, and I'm interested just to see the results, of the study. I'm curious to know, are you all working or sharing this information also with Bureau of Sanitation?
I think as part of our, oh, sorry, were you done, Commissioner?
Yeah, and well, I'm only asking that since, they collect just all the green bins, if that's, a possibility for, clippings or research or anything like that. It's the only reason I was asking.
Yeah, so we'd be happy to coordinate and collaborate with sanitation, especially also because, they're experts in stormwater projects. And so we'd love to hear what they have to say as part of this investigation.
Okay. Thank you for bringing this to, to our attention, and I'm supportive of this effort as long as, it's educational, and I think it'll, lead us to other best management practices and really cultivate just our need to do additional tree planting, things like that, since it's a benefit for, for growth of plants and trees. So I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Right. Mrs. Tabuena Rudy, what are the multiple uses of biochar, and do we know of any other municipalities that have been able to effectively utilize biochar that they have, discovered that they have?
Thank you, Commissioner. So the three benefits that we are very much interested in is using biochar as soil amendment to improve the plant growth. The next thing is it has properties for managing stormwater. It increases water and pollutant retention. And the third is it could be potential bitumen additive for asphalt production. So for Streets LA, we produce asphalt, as you know. We plant trees, and we do have tree waste as part of our tree trimming and removal of dead trees. And so through this investigation, we could have kind of like a circular economy where, we have the dead trees, but we still, continue to use the byproduct of that to create this biochar product to then improve tree growth. So it just keeps going. It's not cradle to grave, but it keeps going around and around. And currently we don't know of any municipalities that are using biochar, and that's why this investigation is really important, because depending on what we find, we could influence what other municipalities are doing and also improve their own urban forest practices and their stormwater management practices.
Great. Those are some great uses that will help us in terms of sustainability measures, and very glad to learn about how effective it can be in our operations. So thank you for that information. With that, I would move that we accept the AFE in item number 3. May I have a second to my motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Villegas. If we can have a roll call vote, Mr. Executive Officer, Dr. Campos.
Absolutely. We'll go ahead and start with you, Mr. Chair. This is for item number 3.
Aye.
Commissioner Caloza,
Aye.
and Commissioner Villegas.
Aye.
This motion is adopted and carries unanimous. Mr. Chair, would you like to consider this to go forthwith?
Please, forthwith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have item 4, oral reports.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, sorry for the interruption.
Sure.
Item number 4 and 5 are very similar. 4 is the regular weekly update, and 5 is the advisement, where I may have those inverse. It's the advisement that was continued from last week. If your board wishes to take both items into at the same time, they're basically going to be the same report, but covering a 2-week period.
Wonderful. Thank you, and we will accept that.
Okay, and if you can read items 4 and 5 together, then we'll go ahead and have the presenter present after the fact.
Great. Items 4 and 5, advisement 1, item 4, advisement 1, status update on major upcoming street improvements project, Bureau of Street Services, continued from original board meeting Friday, February 11th, 2022. Item number 5, the status update on major upcoming street improvements project, Bureau of Street Services. And here to present is?
We have Mr. Saul Almeida.
Great.
Let me just go ahead and spotlight him for you. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Almeida.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, President Pro Temp.
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Davis.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners, Bureau Representatives, and Dr. Campos. My name is Saul Almeida, Acting Superintendent with Street Services Renewal Division, Streets LA. This information is being provided to keep public informed on the upcoming resurfacing projects to minimize the impact on the community as well as delays to the commuters. Streets LA would like to provide you with an update on all major upcoming street improvement projects. There are no major street projects scheduled in the Metro or Valley resurfacing regions during the week of February 13th, 2022 through February 19th, 2022. However, we will provide an update on our 21-22 payment preservation program during the week of February 13th, 2022 through February 19th, 2022. The Metro region will complete 8 projects for a total of 9.26 lane miles during the week of February 13th, 2022 through February 19th, 2022. The Valley region will complete 12 projects for a total of 6.85 lane miles. There are no major street projects scheduled in the Metro or Valley region resurfacing during the week of February 20th, 2022 through February 26th, 2022. An update on our 21-22 pavement preservation program. During the week of February 22 through February 26, 2022, the Metro region will complete 9 projects for a total of 10.79 lane miles. During the week of February 20th, 22 through February 26, 2022, the Valley region will complete 9 projects for a total of 11.24 lane miles. The press release were broadcast and notifications have been issued. Streets LA coordinated with council district offices to assist with outreach to stakeholders, and we will coordinate with LA Department of Transportation for traffic control assistance. This information is also available on Streets LA website, streetsla.lacity.org. For additional information or concerns, you can contact Sherrard Nichols at 213-847-3200. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Almeida. Commissioner Teresa Villegas, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I appreciate Mr. Almeida's report.
Great. Commissioner Caposa, any questions?
No questions for me. Thank you, Mr. Almeida, and have a nice long weekend.
Thank you so much, Mr. Almeida, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Dr. Davis.
Thank you. Item number 6, BPW 2022-0112, status update, Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration and Safety, Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration and Safety. Erica Blythe.
Good morning, commissioners and bureau heads. So nice to see you all. If I can, going to share a PowerPoint with you. Let's see. Bear with me. Share screen. Okay, here we go. Share. Image. All right. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. So just wanted to give you an update, and it's only once every 6 months, so it might be a little long, but hopefully gives you an idea of everything the office is involved in. So thank you. First of all, just wanted to go over some of the regular accomplishments for the year. What we continue to work on is petroleum administration, so that includes dealing with the drill sites. So specifically, we have monthly meetings with Allen Co. They're monthly interagency and enforcement meetings that occur, and that's with the stakeholders, that's with the community, and that's with several regulatory agencies. We also get involved in Rancho Park. There have been a number of requests with Rec and Parks related to making sure the remediation fund is up to date. It's been updated recently, and the Rancho Park operator has agreed to make sure they're adding enough funds so that when remediation occurs, when they leave the site, there's enough funds available for the city to do any remediation work. Also recently, we've been involved in the Murphy drill site. There have been a number of requests, I'm going to get further into this, from CD10 as well as from Stand LA, as they have many concerns about the activities there. As far as pipeline franchises go, in January and March, which are our annual billings, we invoiced $5 million in franchise agreement fees. Some of that money has already come in. There have been a few disputes, but our franchise team, Tamara and also Gordon, have been very involved in resolving those and making sure those billings are up to date. Also forthcoming in franchises is that we will have a long-term pipeline franchise revenue study, and it's completed, and there's potential for more revenue and greater liability protections. That'll be the next priority. What took a lot of time on the franchise side was the SoCalGas franchise work. You all were involved in parts of that as it came to the board and went through its process. I'm going to do an overview of that later. Related to refineries, there are community advisory panel meetings with Marathon as well as Phillips 66, and those refineries operate in the Wilmington area. There's some work related to AB 1646, and that's related to refinery notification systems. So the fire departments or areas where there are refineries are continuing to work on how to implement that. And there's also statewide interagency refinery task force meetings that the office attends. As I mentioned, there are different requests that come from departments. So we've had requests from the fire department, planning, rec and parks, and the CAO, and we provide support for any types of development projects that happen. As far as policy, there continue to be monthly meetings with the Baldwin Hills Community Standards District, the Health Working Group, and the Community Health Assessment Advisory Panel. Also, AB 617, quarterly meetings for Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach, and they're quarterly because that's one of the more established communities and they have already put plans in place. And they're monthly South LA meetings as they're still a newer community and they're beginning to develop their plans. We also are involved in the study of neighborhood air and petroleum sources. We've had a lot of community engagement lately, specifically with Sierra Club and Sand LA, as there have been many actions related to setbacks. So staffing update, I was feeling better about this until I saw the blue book because there were some changes to the positions we thought we were going to get, but hopefully we will get them through. We had a chance to kind of make our case for why they're needed for this work. But as you all recall, staffing went down to 2 at one point for this office, and so we're beginning to staff up. There were 3 positions for the development of drill site compliance program: a senior environmental engineer, an environmental supervisor, and environmental specialist. And so those positions are moving ahead. We actually had interviews just last week that we completed for the senior environmental engineer, and so that's very encouraging. We found some great candidates, and we're going to hopefully make an offer fairly soon. Where I'm having a little bit of concern is the positions for the amortization study. That's where I guess it was an item for discussion, but we need that staff, and it's very important for the work that we plan to do for the amortization study. So hopefully we're able to convince the mayor's office and CEO of the need for those positions for all the work going on. Positions that have already been filled are a deputy, an exempt position, and one management analyst. So in theory, we're going to get 8 new hires, and most of them are beginning hiring just last month. And so I wanted to give a brief introduction of some of the staff who've already come on board. So Gordon Jung, and these are his own words, he joined in October of 2021, and he's in our franchise group, and he's assisting Tamara with the pavilions and franchises, and it's been great to have him. And so he's graduated from UC Irvine in the class of 2018, and he came from LA Metro, and he has a lot of varying interests. We also have Amanda Suter, who joined the office, and she joined also in October, and she has an MS in geology and brings a lot of experience related to upstream oil and gas development. That's been very useful as we're dealing with the issues related to oil and natural gas, specifically for amortization, wells, and compliance. But if you see these folks around the office, you'll know who they are, so when you happen to come into the building. This is as I mentioned earlier, SoCal Gas franchise modernization was a huge effort last year. And in 1992, the city adopted ordinance number 168164 to grant SoCal Gas a 21-year pipeline franchise agreement to construct, replace, reconstruct, repair, and retain its gas system located in streets in the city. So the city had extended this franchise year by year without changes till a new agreement could be negotiated. It expired December 31st, 2021, and we could have extended it again to an absolute max date of 2022, but we, and I say we, because it was truly a huge citywide group effort to do this. Everyone, including the mayor's office, Board of Public Works, city attorney, city council, CAO, CLA, DWP's ratepayer advocate, everyone pulled together to make this happen. But we chose to have a new one, and we were able to get that together. We completed the franchise evaluation from April to August. Negotiations were completed from September to November, and the city procedures have completed. So that was at the Board of Public Works November 1st, you might recall that. The Joint Public Works, Energy, Climate Change, Environmental Justice River Committee on the 3rd. Council's first reading was in January, Council's second reading January 19th, and the mayor signed on January 25th. So all of our city process is completed. What remains is the California Public Utilities Commission procedure. So the advice letter has gone out from SoCal Gas, and there's a 20-day period that will end on March 3rd. And after that, if there are no protests, then that will come into place. And some of the modern features are that there will be air quality monitoring at Playa del Rey with a public-facing website like at Aliso Canyon. There will also be annual updates on their decarbonization process and $21 million in climate mitigation funds. In addition, there will also be increased communication with the city on safety and emergency preparedness. The franchise fee is also going from 2% to 5%. And part of that is to cover the street damage and restoration fund, which previously they had not paid into. So it was a big win-win for the city. A lot of work. Everyone's pretty much familiar with the Los Angeles oil history. Oil's been a part of Los Angeles since the early 1900s, late 1800s. And in Echo Park was where Edward Doheny and Charles Canfield drilled the first successful oil well. Well, related to that, in December, the Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas coordinated with federal, state, and local government officials, including council offices and the mayor, for an LA area well tour event for the Department of Interior's Secretary Deb Haaland in support of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So this was an Echo Park oil well tour. And so from right to left, there's myself, Lauren Faber O'Connor, the Chief Sustainability Officer, Wendy Carrillo, Assemblywoman, District 51, Eric Garcetti, Mayor of Los Angeles, Deb Haaland, Secretary of the Department of Interior, Councilmember Gil Cedillo for Council District 1, and some Echo Park activists, Roger Mejio and Rosalanda Morales. There was also a speaking event at Vista Hermosa Park. And Vista Hermosa Park previously was a drill site back in the 1800s. And again, reading right to left, there's myself, Udo Rockjo, Intuck State Oil and Gas Supervisor, Deb Haaland, Gil Cedillo, Mitch O'Farrell from Council District 13, Eric Garcetti, and Wendy Carrillo. And this was a chance to show what can happen when funds are properly put to use, and that oil sites can be remediated and turned into parks. So this is a picture of the park. This was in Echo Park, again, near where one of the first oil wells was drilled in the 1800s. And this is what it used to look like. This is actually literally at First and Edgware Road, right just south of the park. So you can see the oil wells, you can see the cattle. Los Angeles is very different in the 1800s. And why this is important is that there are funds available to remediate some of these orphan wells in this Infrastructure Job Act. So these photos are taken by CalGEM at El Escorpial Park. And it's a 3-acre park that's located in Simi Hills in western San Fernando Valley. And there are orphan wells at the surface. There are 6 open wells. You can see some of them. You can see there's oil coming out of them. And the funds that can be used they can use not only to flood the wells, but also to remove the equipment and build a new access road for rig access. So CalGEM is going to receive the funds. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act provides $4.7 billion for orphaned wells and site plugging remediation and restoration funds on federal, state, and tribal lands. And the funds will flow through CalGEM, and CalGEM is working to leverage the federal funding. They're reaching out to local municipalities, so they've reached out to the city of Los Angeles. They're compiling data, including well inventories and screening and prioritization data. And they're going to use that data to make a list, and per the federal requirements, they have to apply for the grants and make sure that they're aware of what's going on. And so some of the potential criteria example they have are these things. They're going to look at the age of the wells. They're going to look at how many years it's been idle, population, Cal Enviro score screen, and that sort of information as they make their determination of the priorities. Drill site oversight has also been a big issue for the office. And as you're familiar with Cal Enviro score screens, indicators that are used to look at pollution burden and population characteristics. And so we've gone ahead and ranked the different drill sites based on it. This is for Cal Enviro score screen 3.0. Needs to be re-ranked for 4.0. Haven't got around to that yet. But of the 17 drill sites that are in neighborhoods, 10 are in or around low-income and disadvantaged communities. So related to that, we are working on a drill site compliance transparency program. The basic protocol is in place, or we've developed it. The idea is to gather records from various regulatory agencies, so well inventories, permits, inspection records, notice of violations, notice of odor and complaints, planning cases. And we're going to work with internal and external agencies. So again, the state's Department of Oil and Gas, South Coast Air Quality Management District, the Fire Department, the City Planning Department, Department of Building and Safety, Industrial Waste Management, Watershed Protection, and as needed, we'll file public records requests. And the idea is to create a holistic compliance report for each of the drill sites and an annual update that will be posted on a public-facing website. And this information will be useful. Talking to all the regulatory agencies, they've been very supportive, and I think it'll be useful and a good tool for everyone. As a test case, CD10 has requested a lot of information on the Murphy drill site. They're currently undergoing a planning case review, and some records came in, and they asked the office to look at the records and see what's going on and see how the notice of violations were handled. So we reached out to regulatory agencies and also to the operator. And on January 19th, we performed a site visit. And you can see Amanda there. She performed a site visit herself down in the south. So new staff is being put to work immediately and doing a lot of good work. And we've also been communicating with Standalay on their concerns because they have a lot of specific concerns to the Murphy drill site. Setbacks have been a big topic. And setback is a required physical surface separation between a building or structure. And currently in the Los Angeles Municipal Code, separation from an oil well is 200 feet. So a lot of people have noticed health effects from much greater distances than 200 feet. So the idea initially was to have a motion, Council File 170447, to look at the feasibility of changing the city land use codes in connection with health impacts at oil and well drill sites. So you may recall the 2019 health report that was completed by this office was related to that. And currently it's evolved from setbacks. A lot of times folks were talking about 2,500 feet. And now it's evolved to having non-conforming land use throughout the entire city. So this motion went to several committees: Energy, Climate Change, Environmental Justice, Planning and Land Use Management, Arts, Park, Health, Education, Neighborhoods, and Budget and Finance. It was heard in City Council just last month on January 26th, It passed unanimously and was signed by the mayor. And there was actually a pre-council meeting press conference with Stand LA, and it was a big achievement for Stand LA because they had worked for many years, and a lot of people told them there's no way that cities will ever get rid of oil and gas. And so this has now been a big achievement for them. I was actually invited to the press conference as well. You can see me in a green coat. So I'm always representing green in the environment. And it was heard in City Council again and passed unanimously. So what's in that land use and what was actually passed, there's a lot of work for this office to do. So I'm going to go through the various committee recommendations that were included and are given to the office. But one was specific to participate in the state study of neighborhood air and petroleum sources and studies to utilize the findings to develop air monitoring community notification programs for drill sites and residential neighborhoods in the city. So we're continuing to work on that. To adopt different recommendations, including to work on possible measures to establish community emergency preparedness and comprehensive safety plans at oil and gas drill sites. From the Planning and Land Use Committee, we've been directed to organize a strike team composed of representatives from the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety and the Fire Department in coordination with other county and state regulatory entities to proactively visit oil and gas extraction facilities on a regular basis to ensure the facilities are in compliance with existing regulations. This is modeled after the LA County strike team. We've also been directed to hire an expert to conduct an amortization period for existing wells and to participate in the county's Just Transition Task Force, which we are doing. The Budget and Finance Committee recommended that we work to ensure proper plugging and abandonment of wells and a comprehensive site remediation work to be completed within 3 to 5 years of the site ceasing active oil production. And again, coordinating with relevant regulatory agencies on that. In addition, there was an amending motion, and that was to instruct the office to report on the state rulemakings around oil and gas to ensure that cities in compliance and not duplicating efforts. So, amortization, and I'm quoting from this week's LA Business Journal, local oil companies look to fight drilling bans. Amortization, and under this concept, a local government can move to declare an economic activity non-compliant with zoning codes and then require a company to stop that economic activity once it has recouped its investment. The government is not obligated to make any additional payment to the company. And again, I'm quoting from the news article. That may or may not be exactly how this works out. In one recent case, Culver City retained Baker and O'Brien to conduct the amortization study for their portion of the Inglewood oil field. The study was conducted over 1 year at a cost of approximately $400,000. The study is less complex than what the city of Los Angeles is going to do because it was one oil field and only 41 wells. The city of Los Angeles has approximately 239 wells, 2,039 wells, which would be subject to this process. The number 5,000 gets thrown around a lot, but that's including all the wells that have been abandoned. We specifically will be looking at the wells that are active or idle or could be turned on. The idle wells can also be turned on and be producing wells. So there are 704 active wells and approximately 1,335 idle wells currently. The other thing is that Culver City declared oil to be a non-conforming land use in the 1960s. The city's planning department still has to do that. And so they're staffing up to do that process. Look at the varying land use codes. At the state level for setbacks, CalGEM, the Geologic Energy Management Division, is following a public health rulemaking process, and a pre-regulatory process began in early 2020. They retained a scientific advisory panel composed of public health experts, and they released a draft rule on October 21st, 2021 for 60 days of public comment. They received over 80,000 comments, so they have to look at all of those and incorporate them prior to a final rulemaking. The proposed rulemaking has a setback exclusion area of 3,200 feet, where CalGEM will not approve any new wells being drilled, and it includes many operational requirements for the existing drill sites. So requirements for dust control, sound control, water monitoring, lighting controls, non-emergency spill reporting, vapor capture, and a special note is a requirement for continuous drill site fence line air monitoring. So it's looking at methane specifically and hydrogen sulfide. There are also requirements for alarm systems and coordination with local emergency response agencies. There are also out-of-service production facility requirements that kick in when the facility has been idle for 6 months or more. And so there have also been efforts at the local level. So LA County in September passed 3 oil-related motions, developing a comprehensive strategy for just transition, and that's a committee that we're involved in, developing an oil well cleanup pilot program, and 3 protecting communities no oil and gas drilling operations in Los Angeles County. So protecting communities includes a prohibition on oil and gas extraction wells in all zones, including those under existing or discretionary permits, and designating all existing oil and gas extraction activities as legal non-conforming uses in zones. So we're all following similar paths. And related to LA County, the office is also involved in the Baldwin Hills Health Assessment Environmental Justice Study. And it specifically is related to the Kenneth Pond and Baldwin Eatonwood oil field. But there are surrounding city neighborhoods near there. And so currently the SNAPS program is going to target the Inglewood oil field first and then come to South Los Angeles. As of January of 2022, it looks like city is probably going to get the SNAPS study in 2024. They've had some delays with COVID, having some issues with siting and getting the equipment properly deployed and coordinated. So it might take some time before it comes to the city of LA. The overall health assessment has a process, and so we're currently, you can see the orange color. We're working with the UCLA team to do to review science and possible types of studies that can be done. And the biggest issue is making sure that the study is able to demonstrate something. And a lot of people have a lot of concerns, but sometimes the data is not available to find out the answers to some things. The UCLA team specifically will work with the Community Health Advisory Panel to assemble data, and they're focusing right now on birth data and draft protocols to do that, and they're going to submit all required institutional board report applications. So we've had some different focuses from various researchers who've been able to explain some of their studies. And so one was about birth outcomes. And the question was, why focus on birth outcomes? And the reason why is that pregnant people are uniquely susceptible to some pollutants. It's a critical window of development. And it's a good indicator of overall population health. Also, the exposure window is short, so it's 9 months. And a lot of folks focus on cancer, which is, of course, very important. But the issue is cancer can take decades to develop. And so it's very hard to have a cause and effect with some of these studies. But with 9 months, you can make a concrete decision of when the exposure began, when the effects were seen. So with cancer, the problem is you have to look at other risk factors too. So their genetic effects, their lifestyle choices like exercise, smoking, all those things that go into play before someone can have a cancer. And you can't concretely say it's necessarily from a certain exposure to an oil field. But with the birth outcome study, you can actually show effects. Another study that we had at initial review was by Professor Jill Johnston at USC, and she did a lung function study. This is published in March of 2021. And she looked at the proximity of 2 neighborhoods near 2 drill sites. And it was a cross-sectional community-based study. It was from January of 2017 to August of 2019, looking at people living near 2 well sites, both in the Los Angeles oil field. And it was actually Jefferson Park and North University Park. This actually was the Murphy drill site as well as the Allen Co drill site. And so a total of 961 residents participated. And basically their conclusions were that living nearby downward and urban oil gas drill development sites is associated with lower lung function, which may contribute to environmental health disparities. And this was a very interesting study. And so each of these researchers were able to talk to the groups, and we were able to ask questions and take some lessons learned from each of their studies and see how we might be able to apply that. On AB 617, so the Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas participates in the committee steering committees for Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach, and South LA, which are the two areas with oil as a concern. In Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach, a huge piece of news was Rule 1109.1. And it was adopted in November of 2021 and establishes nitrogen oxide and carbon monoxide concentration limits. And they're going to affect 9 petroleum refineries, 3 smaller refineries, and 4 related operations. So actually 16 facilities that will be affected. And of those 16, 11 are in the communities of Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach. So there's a huge concentration of petroleum refinery and industrial operations there. And this is a replacement to reclaim, and it does not allow facilities to purchase emission credits. It's critical for the South Coast Air Quality Management District to meet the requirements under Settle and Fate law and their commitment to achieve a 50% reduction for the communities. In addition, these Rule 1101.9 facilities represent 62% of the NOx emissions in the reclaim program. And so more than 284 units will be subject to the rule. And it's approximately 4.5 tons per day of NOx reduction within the Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach area. And about 75% of these emission reductions will be seen by 2027. And the public health benefits are estimated to be $2.63 billion. And the benefits include about 370 less premature deaths, 6,200 asthma attacks avoided, and 21,400 work lost days avoided. So there are huge health benefits to this rule, as well as a huge benefit to the community. It's estimated that there are approximately 220 pieces of NOx equipment to be retrofitted, and it could be about $179 million to $1 billion per refinery to do this type of work. In South Los Angeles, they're beginning to work on air quality priorities related to the oil and gas industry, and they're looking at actions for the community emissions reduction plan. These are some potential actions. They're still in draft form. They haven't been finalized yet, but the ideas would be to specifically focus on monitoring surveys near oil and drilling sites to characterize the oil levels, and a lot of different ideas, especially related to monitoring. So what they've done in Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach was to use their specialized equipment. And so the examples of the technology used in Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach could also be used in South LA. So they would drive around the oil sites. As you can see, the concentration is darker. That's where they found potential for leaks. Anytime they found elevated levels, they had to be confirmed by going into the field, and they used flare cameras. And you can see off to the right side. You can't see this with the naked eye, but you can see with these specialized cameras the emissions, and this is for benzene that was emitted from tanks and things. So there's a lot of equipment that could be used. Again, it would have to be verified in the field, but this is what they were able to do in Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach, and they could do similar things in South LA. Looking forward, the office will continue to work on long-term pipeline franchise agreement ordinances and various council file report backs. One is for a barrel tax. We're working with the CAO's office on that, council file 210065. Rentals and royalties. We're not sure the city's receiving the appropriate amount from the royalty payments. Coordinated planning on drill site compliance reviews. I mentioned Murphy, but there are other ones such as West Pico and also Rancho Park. Pipeline abandonments, upcoming state legislation, again, coordinating with CalGEM on their public health rulemaking, and some assembly bills, and continuing to participate in 8617, Wood Oil Field, and Interagency Refinery Task Force. And my contact information if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Blyther. I think that you certainly gave us a very comprehensive report. And my observations are that, one, I'm very proud to see that progress has been made in terms of staffing. Yes. We talked about it in your last report, and I see it playing. In addition to that, you have surprised us with a diverse staff, which also reflects something that we have been talking about here. Also, in terms of moving forward, I was glad to see our former director who worked with you on the picture with the mayor and yourself and the work that you're doing. As we look towards the work that we have to do moving forward, what do you anticipate will be our biggest challenge?
I really think there's going to be a huge challenge related to the land use codes and amortization. So I quoted from that LA Business Journal article But that was a lot of the oil companies saying they're going to fight these standards because they do not like that Culver City, LA County, and LA City are now saying we don't want any oil in the future. Their whole business is focused on oil. We are working with the Just Transition Task Force to try and find alternates for people so that they can have jobs that will replace that income source so people are not completely out of work. But I think that's going to be the biggest concern. There's some concerns potentially this could go to the Supreme Court, but I think it's definitely going to be the land use code change will be the biggest struggle.
How have we done in terms of individual families and residents of the Los Angeles area who own oil on their property? Have we been able to manage and provide the appropriate information for those individuals in terms of those who happen to be owners of property with oil?
And that's something we have looked into, and that has been a small source, but that's something we need to bring out more in this just transition is if there are people who are relying on this revenue stream, that is something we need to focus on and making sure a lot of times we'll hear that argument that there are, maybe people who are past working age, but they're relying on that check to come every month. And so making sure that those families are not without income.
Thank you. Commissioner Colosa, any questions?
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis, and thank you for your really thorough presentation, Ms. Blyther. It's always great to hear all the work that you're doing and echo Commissioner Davis. I think it's great that you have more help and more staff to really do this work and implement this. You're involved in so many different things, from studying the impacts on health outcomes to, really decreasing our reliance on oil and gas, which is where we're all heading. That's where this train is heading. And you're trying to do it in a way that is sustainable and in a way that considers all the different stakeholders and the vantage point that they may be looking at this issue and why they may be opposed. So I really appreciate your thoughtfulness in working with as many stakeholders as possible. For the recent budget request that you submitted for this coming fiscal year, I know I got to hear a portion of it during the meeting the other day with the CAO's office, but can you share if there was anything included in this coming fiscal year around any work around like any external relations or a more fleshed out website that your office will be looking to have in the future? And I see that because there's so much rich information that you present all the time, and I would really love to see all this work that you're doing be communicated out to the public because it's so important. And, I know there's some stuff right now on our website where I think you have a sub page, but I think the work that you're doing, you have so many things that people want to know more and read about. So I'd love to know if there's any requests in the budget for you to build out your future external communications.
Yes, so we did put a request for a website in the budget. And so that would be for two purposes, as you mentioned, just general information, because there's a lack of knowledge about oil and gas in general, because you only know if you've kind of delved into this field. So just a lot of frequently asked questions, equipment identification, that would be great. But then also for the compliance program, a way of looking at this drill site, okay, what's there? How many tanks are there? What are the fence heights? How many permits do they have? That sort of thing. So we definitely had a budget request for that. We'll see what happens. I think it's important, as you mentioned. We have a lot of work that we're doing, but we want to be able to communicate that with everyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a critical piece. And for people who may not know where to look, specifically like on the Board of Public Works website, to look up the agenda, to look up specifically your item, to then find this presentation that's so rich with information. I would love to make it as easy as possible for the community to find, because you're making a lot of great progress, and congratulations on to the entire team, especially the SoCal Gas franchise. I know that was a lot of many hours and sleepless nights for you. But that would be like my main observation, in addition to what Commissioner Davis already shared, is let us know how we can be helpful in building that out, how we can make sure to support your continued effort to to get those additional resources specifically for your external communications, even some frequent updates, whether it's through a newsletter or what have you. I think it's going to be so important that we continue to build out your stakeholder list because it's going to grow more and more, and you're having so much visibility in the public, which is great because everyone should know about all this work that you're doing. They may not even know that they live next to an oil well or pipeline, right? They may not know that this is impacting them. So that was really it for me, but amazing job, and I really look forward to meeting your new team. Now I know what they look like, and so I look forward to seeing them in person soon, hopefully. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And one thing I want to mention is also for a lot of the information, we want to make sure it's in Spanish too, because a lot of the people who are near these drill sites, they may not speak English fluently. So we want to make sure that the resources, language justice has to be a principle in conveying this information. It's a big focus in the South LA 8617 meeting is making sure that everyone is able to understand the information and respond appropriately. So that is something we want to do too, is also have translations for our information.
You will go out to town hall meetings when council members have them and invite you to present. And so you can share this information publicly through that tool as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Colosa, for those thought-provoking inquiries. And Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I too appreciate your report. You have so much going on, and I'm glad that you're getting staff as well. I can't believe you did it so long just by yourself. So I'm glad that there's some reprieve, and thanks also for sharing those pictures, the images. I did get to meet one of your staff when I went to City Hall, so I'm glad that that they're there. I don't have any questions. I think that you provide so much information. It's really good to be able to share it with the public. I know that with the council action last month, you've been really busy. I'm glad to see that that there's communication with our legislators and with the decision makers, and so that there's just a lot of energy and information sharing. Yeah. Thank you so much for all of your work. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas, and thank you, Ms. Blyther, for a great report. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Sure. And our final item is item 7, BPW 2022-0113, advisement number 2, stormwater capture update, Bureau of Sanitation, continued from Friday, February 11th, 2022.
Good morning, commissioners and borough representatives. I also have I was hoping to share some slides to go along with my presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Wu, and I'm sure that Dr. Campos will.
Sure, we can
share
make
his screen.
Absolutely, we can make Esther a co-host at this time. Esther, if you can just please forward the presentation over to our office for our records. Typically for oral reports, we receive them 1 week in advance, but if you can do so as soon as possible, we'll enter into the record. You should get an invitation in about 5 seconds to make you co-host. Once you see that, you'll be able to share the screen. You'll see an icon right in the middle, lower middle of your screen, share screen. It'll be green in color. And if I could just ask you not to click the in red button, because that will terminate everyone from the call.
I'll make sure to not press that important red button. Thank you. And I apologize for not sending these slides in advance. But are you able to see my screen at this point?
Yes, we can. We can see everything. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So good morning, commissioners and borough representatives. My name is Esther Wu. I'm an environmental engineer associate with the Borough of Sanitation Safe Clean Water Implementation Division. I will be reporting on stormwater capture in the city, utilizing green stormwater infrastructure. I'll be starting off with a summary of rainfall for the season, move on to the summary of runoff capture, and share some site photos of existing projects, and end with upcoming stormwater capture projects in development. So to summarize the rain season so far, the rain year starts in October and runs to the end of September. The 4 largest rain events this season all occurred so far in December. There were pretty sizable events. For reference, the 85th percentile rain event, which is used as our design storm for projects, is about 1 inch. And according to the USC rain gauge, on December 13th, we had a rain event of 1.83 inches. December 23rd, 1.37 inches. December 29th, 1.47 inches. And on December 20th, we had 2.06 inches. Or sorry, December 30th, we had 2.06 inches. According to the National Weather Service data, we received about 74 or 73% of our average rain year so far. So we received 10.59 inches so far versus the historical average of 14.25 inches for the whole rain year. That's the historical average. And so far, we still have the rest of February and March in the wet season left in the current rain year. This graph shows the amount of rainfall in this season in comparison to the historical average rainfall. The columns in dark blue are the inches of rain we had so far this season, and light blue columns are the historical average inches of rain by month. According to the dark blue column, we had a really wet December this year with 9.46 inches of rain in comparison to the historic average of about 2.5 inches. But we also had a dry in January months compared to the historical average. Also on the graph are the cumulative rainfall. The dark blue line is the cumulative rainfall for the season, and the light blue line is the cumulative historic rainfall. Because of our wet December month, we were way above average at one point, but due to our dry January month, we are hovering near that average cumulative rainfall. If we don't get any more rain this season, we may end up below average rainfall. So that was a summary of the rain event we received. Now we'll move on to the city infrastructure we have in place to capture the rain runoff. As an overview, we have 3 scales of stormwater infrastructure to capture and treat runoff. At the institutional scale, we have the LID program to capture runoff collected from individual properties. At the distributed scale, we have projects like Green Streets to capture runoff from multiple properties by scattering BMPs throughout the public right-of-way. At the regional scale, we have large facility projects like wetlands or large underground galleries to capture runoff from entire neighborhoods by diverting from storm drains. Our LID program was able to construct 1,661 new projects during the 21-22 fiscal year so far at the institutional scale. We have no new completed projects at the distributed and regional scale since the last board update. This slide shows the estimated runoff volume and capture volume in the rain season so far. In blue is the estimated runoff volume from our completed project drainage areas. In red is the estimated capture volume of our completed projects. Theoretically, the projects captured all the runoff generated in October and January. But in December, we missed a chunk of the runoff because so many of the December rain events were larger than the 1-inch 85th percentile design storm. Regardless, based on our calculations, our projects and LID program captured an estimated total of 1,510 million gallons since October last year. And as a clarification, by captured, we are referring to the volume of water that is treated and infiltrated, and also flow-through treated and released. This graph is kind of overwhelming at first, but it's just a compilation of the rainfall and capture graphs from the previous slides. I won't go into it too much because I don't want to repeat information, but sanitation management likes this graph because it shows everything in one place, and it's here as a reference. The top portion is the rainfall graph corresponding to the right axis, and the bottom portion is the cumulative capture graph corresponding to the left axis. This slide shows some photos of the recently completed catch basin and drywall projects in the San Fernando Valley during an October rain event. As you can see in the photos, runoff is being captured by the catch basin. Inside the catch basin and pretreatment chamber, sediment and trash is removed before being routed to a dry well where it infiltrates into the ground to replenish the aquifer. This infrastructure also helps remove water from the streets and help reduce local flooding in the valley. You can't see because it's a photo, but the water is actually coming in pretty fast. I would say between 5 to 10 feet per second. So it's doing a good job removing water from the streets. These are some before and after photos of the inside of one of those catch basins. The contractor conducted maintenance after some rain events in December. This was only about half of the rain season, but you can see there's so much sediment, it's almost covering the pipe outlet. It's good that the sediments and trash are being removed from the runoff. The photo also highlights the importance of maintenance for projects. This slide shows photos after some of the December rain events at the Argo Ditch diversion at LAX. The photo to the left shows the Argo Ditch straight ahead, and water is diverted to the right entrance. The photo to the right shows a close-up of the diversion. Sediment is removed and the runoff goes through the slanted screens on the lower right and is routed to the sedimentation chamber and a huge infiltration and a huge underground tank for infiltration. So now moving on to new projects, upcoming projects in development. Under the special funded projects umbrella, we have 2 Green Alley projects, both located in CD9 South LA area, finishing up design. The 2 projects will improve about 10 alleys total. The alleys will capture and infiltrate runoff via small infiltration galleries below the surface. In total, the alleys have a drainage area of about 5 acres and will capture about 2.5 acre-feet per year. Construction is expected to start in late April, or in April. Also in design is the Reseda River Loop Greenway project that will be improving 2 street ends with bioswales right before they enter the LA River. The project is located in CD3 in the neighborhood of Reseda. And construction is expected January 2023. Moving on to Safe Clean Water funded projects in development. In the pre-design design phase, we currently have 12 projects funded. The Oro Vista Local Area Urban Flow Management, Wilmington Neighborhood Greening, Lankershim Boulevard Local Area Urban Flow Management Network, Lincoln Park Neighborhood Green Street Network, MacArthur Lake Rehabilitation Project, Sepulveda Green Median, Haines Street Greenway Phase 1, La Cienega Boulevard Green Infrastructure Corridor, East 6th Street Green Infrastructure Corridor, Reseda Boulevard Alley Green Streets, Tahunga Canyon Boulevard Green Streets, and Wilmington Q Street Local Area Urban Flow Management Projects. I won't get into these. LASAN will be providing a more detailed oral report on the Safe Clean Water projects and program in April. Moving on to Safe Clean Water funded projects in development by LADWP. DWP funded the design for the 9 park stormwater capture project, which are currently in 90% to 100% designs. These projects will divert water from storm drains, remove trash, sediment, and debris before taking it to large underground galleries for infiltration. Of those 9, 5 of the projects have been approved for Safe Clean Water regional funding for construction. The 5 projects that will be moving forward are the David M. Gonzalez Recreation Center in CD7, Fernangeles Park in CD9, Strathern Park in CD6, and Valley Plaza Park in CD2, and Valley Village Park in CD2. That concludes my stormwater capture updates presentation. You can find additional information at lastormwater.org, and the website's listed on the slide. Kevin Ho, also with sanitation, will be helping me to answer questions if there are any at this time.
Yes, I'll start off with a question about the safe, clean water projects. What is the criteria we use? I noticed that a lot of them are centrally located in terms of the projects we have in that. What are some of the elements that are important for us in terms of establishing those projects for the city?
I'm actually not.
I can help answer that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, and thank you, Esther, for your Ms. Wu, for your presentation. Excuse me for just jumping in, but it's if you had hesitation, I'm like I can certainly answer that. Didn't mean just to interrupt. The Safe Clean Water program is comprised of 3 components. President Pro Tem Davis, it's got a regional component where cities are able to compete against others in order to be able to get funds for different projects. So the projects that Ms. Wu listed, those are, some of them are from like the San Fernando area. And the other piece from the Safe Clean Water program is regional pot, a municipal pot, which is a local return that the city receives, and then another pot that is accounted for by the LA County Department of Public Works. The requirements for the regional pot includes water supply, water quality, and a community benefit component. And so the projects that are listed here on the Safe Clean Water funded projects, those are projects that have scored well through, with a group of folks that actually score projects before they're selected. And so they have the component of water supply and of water quality and a community benefit. And as you'll see, some of these are like located in the San Fernando Valley, because there's a big portion of those that the Department of Water and Power is seeking to create more water supply, because it's such a area that is usually has a little bit more flooding.
I see. So does that mean that then we use it based upon the need, and some of the other areas of town may not have as deep a need as certain areas do? Is that one of the things that's a variable in placing them here? It's not a service that is needed in every area equally, I would suspect, is what I hear you saying. Is that correct?
And just to answer your question, Commissioner Davis, the projects that you see before you, those are the ones that were presented to the the voting committee, and they were either water quality benefit, water supply, or some community benefit. And it's just a snapshot. The other projects that you may see as for rounds 2, 3, and 4, those will be throughout Los Angeles. So the ones that are just before you today, that's just the snapshot of the projects that were approved, I want to say, in round 1 and 2.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that. Because I just wanted to make sure that if there was some opportunity that other areas should participate as well, so this is just a quarterly report of what we have done thus far. So now I understand that. With that, I guess, Commissioner Villegas, if you have any comments about the report,
Thank you. I don't. I just appreciate the staff providing the report and just being thorough, and just on the average rain that we've captured and that we've received thus far, and then the various projects that have been going through sanitation. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Commissioner Caloza, any inquiries or questions?
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Thanks for your presentation, Ms. Wu, and thanks, Commissioner Vegas, for adding additional background about selection process. For the next presentation, maybe in April, it would be helpful to see, and maybe you guys can add detail, LASAN can add detail about council districts. That might help, and I think to Commissioner Davis's point, kind of see where projects are going. Not that that's not where the need should be or is, but that just helpful background, I think, for us to see that kind of distribution when you go up to your projects list above. I don't have any questions right now. I know I have a meeting on the books with the LACN team to discuss some of these projects, so I can ask in that meeting. But can you just send us a copy of your presentation? That would be really helpful, Ms. Wu.
Yes, I can definitely send the presentation, and I'll relay the details, and I'll relay the request for council districts information for the next board update. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
And thank you, Ms. Wu, for an informative report. Thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Great, great. Well, I want to thank everybody and hope that everyone has a great weekend. This is a holiday weekend, so everybody enjoy, and we look forward to coming back to work and picking up the gavel again. Thank you so much, and great weekend.
Good job.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chair, would you like to cancel management meeting, or?
We can just meet for, let's see, about 5 minutes.
Okay. I will let Commissioner Caloza know.